For the next 10 minutes, let's talk about a topic that you probably don't think about much, or have never thought about. However, as future healthcare professionals, this is an issue we should be aware of. Problem gambling in older adults. At what point does gambling become a problem or an addiction? This wasn't something that Kayla and I knew much about. We liked the odd game of bingo too, but whenever we discussed our project with people, everyone seemed to know an elderly person who gambled. "Oh yes, my grandmother is always at the bingo," someone would say, or "yeah, his dad constantly is at the casino." Let's rewind to January 19th, the day of our interview. It was the best of times, early on in Course 3 when the world was fresh and new. We arrived on our bikes to King Tower, a housing complex for low-income seniors. We met our interviewee on the 7th floor, sat down with her beside the billiard table in the lounge, and spoke over coffee. As the lights faded outside, we realized that we had been speaking for 3 hours. It felt like 5 minutes. She had led a fascinating life. One of the common threads in her narrative was addiction. Husbands, neighbors, people she had worked with, her brother and her son. She had known many addicts. She told us, quote, "I think I could have been an addict, but I knew that I wasn't going to be a drunkard. I'm very determined never to get caught up in addictions. I never look down at the people who are addicted, because addiction is stronger than we are." She was particularly concerned about one behavior, gambling. She said, quote, "Gambling is really bad. It's even worse than drinking. I never go gambling. I don't go to bingo. I know too many people whose lives have been ruined by that."
She went on to describe elderly people in her building for low-income seniors that gambled away their pension at the beginning of the month and struggled to get by for the rest of it. After our interview, we biked away with heads full of questions and ultimately settled on a few areas of research. Is gambling a problem in older adults? What factors might make this population at higher risk for the development of problem or compulsive gambling? And what services and treatments are available for seniors with gambling disorders? As we dove into the research, the issue only became more complicated. For example, there are studies showing the positive benefits of gambling in seniors. What's this even a problem? But let's stop for a moment. What exactly is problem gambling? Is that the same as saying that someone has a gambling addiction? We talked to Bill Chamberman from Gamblers Anonymous, who has a long history with the organization and currently works in outreach for GA. I would like to mention that there is a difference between compulsive and problem gambling. The way that casinos, for instance, are set up, with no windows, no clocks, free drinks as long as you're gambling, could lead even the most normal people down a bad path where they could get carried away and their gambling could get out of hand. It could happen to anyone. Gamblers Anonymous helps these people too, and they often return quickly to normalcy. The compulsive gambler, in our experience, is quite different. Compulsive gambling is an emotional illness. Bill describes compulsive gambling as a fire that cannot be put out and that has to be constantly lit, and as an inadequate response to life.
The DSM defines pathological gambling disorder, PGD, as behavior which fits 5 or more diagnostic criteria, such as persistent and recurrent maladaptive gambling behavior resulting in impairments in the areas of work, studies, and family relationships, or difficulties in limiting money or time spent on gambling. By 2051, 1 in 4 Canadians will be aged 65 or older. Legalized gambling is an industry which has flourished over the past 15 years. Within Alberta, 9 of the province's 24 casinos have opened during that time span. ADAC, the Alberta Alcohol and Drug Commission, concluded that with the aging Canadian population and the increase in accessibility of gaming activities comes a concern that a growing number of people over the age of 65 will experience problem gambling. They felt the current estimates of pathological gambling among senior populations in Alberta, 0.6%, was likely underreporting the problem. Seniors are the fastest growing group of gamblers, and, unfortunately, this seems very much by design. The sight of seniors unloading from buses at casinos, some of which are subsidized by the government, is an all too familiar sight, particularly on an afternoon weekday when those over age 65 account for more than 40% of casinos' business and 38% of revenue in general. So too are special promotions by casinos directed towards seniors, mail-outs which provide free meals, free credit, free drinks, club cards that give 50% off prescription drugs, all to entice seniors to while away their time at the tables and slot machines, which has led some to cynically describe the casino as the bleak new senior center. However, there is conclusive research that shows the positive benefits of gambling among seniors. Gambling is the most frequently identified social activity among adults over 65, with casinos and bingo surpassing movies, lunch, shopping, and golf as preferred social activities. Gambling, for the vast majority of seniors, provides a positive outlet. In fact, the most common place for seniors to meet others is now at the casino, not church, not the mall or the restaurant, but over some type of gambling. Some studies have shown that recreational gamblers had better health than non-gamblers, and that unlike younger gamblers, gambling in the elderly was not associated with poorer health outcomes. However, for those seniors for which gambling or the casino is a significant part of their social lives, the likelihood of them developing problems increases dramatically. These are the 8% of seniors for which gambling costs them their retirement egg.
Why are seniors the fastest growing group of gamblers? This brings us to the key differences between regular gamblers and the elderly. Seniors gamble for different reasons than young gamblers: to cope with major life changes or losses, to avoid social isolation, to distract from physical limitations that come with aging, to get away for the day, and to access inexpensive meals. Keep in mind that young gamblers have working years left to recover their losses, while elderly gamblers often do not. Interestingly, gambling is associated with cognitive decline. An Australian study found that increasing age is correlated with likelihood of problem gambling in the elderly. Currently, 14% of people over age 71 have some form of dementia. This number is expected to reach 20% in the next 20 years. Remember those buses we mentioned? They are often government subsidized, and once seniors are at the casino, they are captive until the bus departs for the day. Governments have a clear incentive to get seniors to gamble. Casinos, slots, and lotteries bring in almost $14 billion a year in Canada, $1.5 billion in Alberta. Half of gambling revenue comes from addicts. On one hand, governments must cope with the cost to society that gambling addiction wreaks and provide support for addicts. On the other hand, gambling generates billions of dollars of revenue. The senior who is a gambling addict likely won't physically appear to be in distress. Gamblers in general are reluctant to acknowledge their problems, and it is often even easier for elderly gamblers to hide their addiction. Even if seniors realize they have a problem, seniors are less likely than other age groups to seek help with a gambling problem. Perhaps this is due to the fact that seniors were raised in a generation that frowned upon being seen as needy or having to rely on others. As our interviewee attested to, seniors are an incredibly independent group, reluctant to admit they are in distress. The General Social Survey done by Statistics Canada concluded that seniors are almost twice as likely as the rest of the population not to turn to anybody for help if they are feeling just a bit down or depressed. Many seniors won't seek help until they reach the edge of catastrophic financial loss.
When seniors do seek treatment, the number of agencies and services available are limited in number, and the system somewhat difficult to navigate. We experienced this firsthand. Many agencies offering addiction services to seniors fall under the umbrella of AHS. SAIL, Substance Abuse in Later Life, and CHR, Adult Addiction Services, both redirected our calls to AHS, who in turn redirected us back to SAIL and CHR. We did have helpful conversations with GA and Smart Recovery. One agency we spoke to told us that 2/3 of the seniors they treat are there for gambling addiction. It's important to note that physicians play a crucial role in advocating for seniors with these and other services. Many of their programs are only available based on physician referral, therefore recognizing the gambling problem in seniors is crucial. While the DCM criteria for gambling have evolved in the latest version to reclassify gambling alongside substance abuse, as a screening tool for seniors, the DSM falls somewhat short. For example, questions pertaining to gambling affecting seniors' work, social, family life, or if gambling is taking up an inordinate amount of time, might not expose a gambling problem in the senior who is retired, living alone, who is gambling precisely because they are trying to fill their days. Screening, though, is something both ADAC's Commission on Gambling and some sociological bodies recommend. As a generation raised in our current climate where gambling is more accessible, reaches their golden years, detecting and preventing gambling problems will be key in controlling this possible epidemic. This is a sensitive issue, and seniors who gamble may be reluctant to disclose that they have a problem, but as future physicians in a position of trust with seniors, we have a unique opportunity to ask seniors if gambling may be causing a problem in their lives.
5 easy questions are recommended by therapists who treat gambling addicts. Are they preoccupied with gambling? Are they wagering larger amounts of money? Are they using their savings to gamble? Have they lost control? And do they get uncomfortable or angry when confronted? The efficacy of screening is still being debated, but because so few therapists and counselors are trained in treating gambling addiction, there is a growing concern that this problem, which is already underreported, will continue as a silent addiction. As the number of seniors suffering from dementia increases, as gaming opportunities and access to gambling increase, and as the population ages, We cannot afford to gamble on this problem.